Hi, and welcome to Down to Earth. I'm Daphne Richards. This week's question comes from Ramona. She wants to know, when is the best time to move a rosebush? It's a great question, since many of us may want to move plants this winter, including shrubs such as roses and trees. Late fall through early winter is the best time to move our trees and shrubs. They're dormant at this time of year, which makes moving them much less stressful. It's also cooler, which is also better. Be sure to water your plants well in preparation for that move, and make sure they're really hydrated, and when you cut off the roots, you cut off their source of water, so it's better to have them very well hydrated. You can also root prune your plants before you move them. That means that you can go ahead and dig the hole around the plant without moving it. This cuts into the soil and cuts into the roots and encourages them to branch and produce new healthy roots so that it has more of a root mass when you move it. If the plant does have any dead growth, you can prune that out, but go ahead and wait until late winter at the regular time to give it its normal pruning. February is the time when we prune our rose bushes traditionally. This encourages them to have more flower blooms for us in the spring. Also this fall, we got many questions about moving stress plants when it was still hot in September. Even though that's our inclination to move plants when they're suffering in the wrong location, summer's a terrible time to move your plants. It was so hot and dry this summer especially, but even in a normal summer, it's too stressful to move your plants at that time. They're not well hydrated and you're cutting them off from their roots, which is their only source to get water. Our plant this week is snapdragons, and there are so many wonderful cultivars and varieties to choose from. These are great to grow with kids. They're cool season annuals, and they're easy to find transplants in late winter and early spring. They do prefer cool, moist soil and bright light. The flower stalks are very tall with large tubular flowers on all sides. It is available in almost any color imaginable, from pale pink to bright yellow and everything in between. Kids love to pinch off individual flowers and play with the dragon mouths. Pinching off those flowers just encourages the plant to produce more. It won't perform well if it's planted in heavy shade. Snapdragons are annuals, but they don't easily reseed in the landscape, so they aren't a nuisance if you plant them among your perennial beds that would otherwise be bare all winter. The seeds are very tiny and can take almost a month to even germinate, so it's probably best to start with transplants out in the garden, especially if you're working with kids who can be kind of impatient. If you do plant indoors, they won't germinate well in cold soil, so you might want to use a heat mat. And they don't also germinate in the cold soil outdoors. They're very tiny seeds. And now I wanted to share some follow-up information on one of our recent plants of the week, Peter's Purple Bee Balm. I had 2 of these plants at trials in my garden, so I'm experimenting to find out the best cultural recommendations for them. These plants did great into the heat of the summer, but they got about 6 feet tall and started to fall over. So I decided to experiment with cutting them back. I cut one plant all the way back to the ground and the other back to varying heights between 2 and 3 feet. The one on the left was cut to the ground. In other words, no above ground portions were showing at all. And it looks much healthier, as you can tell, now than the one that was cut back to about 1/3 of its size. Since this bee balm is a perennial, you would always cut it back all of the above ground portions in the late fall anyway. But if the plant's drought stressed or just getting out of control, we've learned that you can also prune it back to the ground in the summer to reinvigorate it. These plants also did fabulous during the record-breaking cold of their first winter last year, and now I've seen that they also breezed through a record-breaking summer, so I hope that they begin to become more widely available at local nurseries. To do in your garden this week, if you have a compost pile and you're like me and couldn't bring yourself to get out there and turn it this summer, now's a great time to do it. And if you don't have a composting system, now's also a great time to consider starting one. The City of Austin has some great composting classes, and you can even get a free composting bin from them if you're willing to downsize your garbage bin to the smallest container. We'd love to hear from you. Please visit klru.org/ctg to send us your questions or plants of the week from your garden.